So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. I am Ronagrit, and so Richard has talked about languaging, the principle of languaging, and what informs our decision on using the languaging curriculum at community, right? So in the next 30 minutes, hopefully, I'm going to share with you how languaging was put into practice. Again, how we implemented languaging in the hobby course, which is the first of three courses in the languaging curriculum. Okay, and yeah, like Richard said, if you have questions during my presentation, you can take notes, or maybe you can leave them in the chat, and I'll try to answer them in the Q&A session. Okay, so the hobby course, okay, as you might have guessed. Obviously, we term the hobby course because everything in the course involved students learning to do their own hobbies, right? Yes, we discuss and we include a variety of issues in the hobby course, but everything revolves around students doing their own hobby, okay? Which we believe is a topic with a potential to help them to promote intrinsic motivation to use the language, right? Because it's the things that they really want to do. And the course was built on the principle of the languaging curriculum. The focus in the hobby course is on tools and strategies to achieve their cognitive goals. Yeah, like Richard said, that we base our design of the courses on partly on ELF theories. So we have to promote the use of strategies and tools. Okay, and the other thing is that since in today's world, we have to promote flexibility, okay? And it's really important to teach them strategies that can be generalizable in any language use context in the world, especially in this world full of uncertainties. And in the hobby course, let's suppose, I don't know about other countries, but in Thailand, usually, let's suppose you have 40 students in a classroom, and each student will have different hobbies. So you probably have 40 hobbies in a class. So we have to teach things that can be applicable or generalizable. Okay. And each student, yeah, in the course, each student will be exposed to different inputs because they have different hobbies. So they will read different resources, they will watch different things. So they will be exposed to different inputs, and they will communicate on different topics, right? So since there might be 40 hobbies in the course, we have to have like a sample hobby, okay, to provide to be able to illustrate language use strategies and to show them how to use tools and resources, okay? And we decided to use origami as a sample hobby, okay? As my presentation goes on, you will probably understand how origami was used as an example and how it is really useful to teach the students. Next is objectives, right? We set 5 major objectives in the hobby course. The first one is students should be able to communicate meanings intelligibly in authentic situations. Here, this one actually makes it different from other traditional English courses, because if you can see 2 keywords here, communicating intelligibly. So it means that we shift our focus away from accuracy to intelligibility, like John Richard emphasized in his presentation, and everything must be authentic. Like, so every conversation or every language used should be authentic, and it should be used in real world context and real world purposes. The second one is understand the importance of English. Okay. So yes, partly because it's the first course, so we have to show them how English is important. And when they understand the importance of English, we expect them to continue to gain exposure to authentic input. In the hobby course, if you still remember the statistics that Richard showed you, the 63% of students still gain exposure to English, right? That's from Reddit. Okay, so in that course, we use Reddit as well. We did a survey, and we did a follow-up, and students said that many students said that they still use Reddit to communicate with other hobbyists. And the third one is to achieve communicative goals through resources and strategies. And the fourth one is to build their confidence to use the language, right? This becomes really important in the hobby course, since it's the first course of 3 courses in the languaging curriculum. So we need to build their confidence first, and then this kind of confidence will lead to accuracy later as the course goes on. And yes, since it's the hobby course, they have to maybe gain a non-academic hobby interest. Now the key teaching methods. So it's a mix between classroom learning and self-study. So in classroom learning, we discuss things and explore tools and resources necessary to doing their own hobby. And in self-study week, we also have self-study week for students, so they can learn their own and they can spend time doing their own hobby. Okay, but we still keep in touch with students. So if they have questions or issues, they can always contact their teachers. Okay, so teachers stand by. Next is a focus on analyzing successful models to imitate. Okay, we emphasize the word imitate here because it's different from blind copying. So when you like Richard mentioned, when we do something new, when we want to do things, so usually as a teacher, maybe as an adult, you imitate things as well. So we show students how to analyze models or work that are successful, and then what things that can be imitated, right? And the last one is each assessment is based on completion of work and intelligibility. Okay, I will explain and clarify this later. And this is a course structure. At KMUTT, we usually have 15 weeks, and we divide the weeks into 5 different stages. The first one is identifying a hobby. So in this, in the first 2 weeks, we need students to understand the concepts of the course, since we assume that most of them would be used to the way English was taught, like traditionally. So we have to make them understand how English learning, maybe not about learning. So English learning can be approached in a different perspective or in a different mindset. So we have to make them understand, right? And then we need to help them choose a hobby to do in the course. Thai students, yeah, some students, they have hobbies to do, yeah, but I would say that most of them have no idea what hobby to do because they don't do any hobby. So we have to help them narrow down the list of hobby, or help them choose a hobby to do in the course. Next stage is learning the hobby. So in this stage, it ranges from week 3 to week 6. Okay, so we will guide them through the resources or tools that can be useful for doing their own hobby. And we also teach them strategies to get that resources that they want. And we teach them to be critically to use resources, which I'll show you later. Week 7 to 9, it's about interacting about hobby. Maybe I should have mentioned this earlier, but in the course, we one of the assessment is communication on Reddit, right? That part of the communicating in the real world context. So to help them communicate successfully on Reddit, okay. In other words, to help them make contributions, to make them post things that can elicit comments. We need to help them to do that, to achieve the goals. So we help them find a forum, we help them analyze posts or questions in the forum, and how to interact, how to respond to comments. And next is creating a video on the hobby. Another assessment is showing the hobby to the world, okay, through posting their video on YouTube. Okay, so we help them, we guide them through the analysis of existing videos, 5 videos that are successful, that can be used as a model, and analyze them, and media design in a video. We guide them through script writing, and we also teach them to write a storyboard. Okay, but it doesn't have to be that storyboard doesn't have to be perfect, because we are not producing a really professional video, but just to help them communicate intelligibly and comprehensively in their video. Okay, so it's like an 8. And the last stage is a summary. So basically, it's about reflections on learning. These materials of of the course is available in the website. So if you go to the website, click on the hobby course and then you see 15 weeks. So you can click on each week to see what is included in each week. Okay. Next, okay, let's start from the first stage, identifying a hobby. Like I said earlier, that some students have no background in doing a hobby, so we need to help them choose a hobby to do in the course. So in this one, we show them that, okay, different hobbies concerned with different skills. So which skills are you interested in? Which skills do you want to improve? Which skills are you really into? So for example, if you are into designing and creating things, maybe you can choose origami or doing calligraphy. If you are like a little bit passive, maybe you can choose something that is passive, like observing things like bird watching and satellite watching. But this is pretty rare, so students usually don't choose this kind of hobby. Or if you are into playing music, you can choose classical guitar or kim. Kim is a Thai musical instrument. Or if you are really active and really into doing activities, you can choose kite flying or yo-yoing. Okay. And in the course, yeah, we have some certain criteria for students to choose a hobby. So to also help them choose a hobby, we set a list of criteria, and then let them choose some hobbies from the three lists: choice A, from the Wikipedia, choice B, and choice C, and then let them choose one, whatever they want. So students will choose one hobby and then analyze and evaluate their choice of the hobby based on the criteria. If you can see from the left of the slide, you can see some examples. Okay, so we set up a Google Forms to help both teachers and students. Okay, since in Thailand we got a lot of students in the class, so to help teachers as well. So we choose like an automated forms to evaluate their choice of a hobby. So for example, there are 3 items here. Actually, in the form, there are 9 items. Okay. So the first one example is the hobby is something you can do individually. Okay. We assume that everyone has different interests, so it should be the thing that you can do on your own. Okay. And the second one is the hobby is something that other people already do, and so there are enough resources like websites or videos about the hobby. This is because we want to encourage the exposure to English input, to authentic input. So if they choose a hobby that is really, really unusual, there won't be enough resources, especially English resources for them. So their hobby should be something that people already do. So there are resources for them to read, especially in English, and to watch, okay, to ensure that they gain enough exposure to English. And the third one is the hobby has at least a discussion page, okay, preferably Reddit. So because one of the assessment is to communicate on Reddit and to interact with other hobby enthusiasts. So there should be a discussion forum, and online discussion forum, and we encourage students to use Reddit because it's really useful and it has a lot of people in there. So if you're not really familiar with Reddit, let me explain it here. Reddit is a really big online discussion forum with different subreddits. They call it subreddits. So you can go to each group based on your interests. For example, if you are interested in playing yo-yo, there is a yo-yo group in there. If you are interested in memes, there are quite some memes subgroups in there. If you are interested in origami, join origami subreddit. Okay, so there are many groups based on interests in Reddit. So we encourage students to use Reddit, and it's part of the assessment as well. Now the next stage is learning the hobby. Like I said earlier, that in this stage we try to help them find decent resources and to help them realize the importance of English. So we start from teaching the strategies to search, because we believe that it's generalizable. So it can be useful in this course and outside the classroom. So they have to know how to search. Okay. Like the first one, how much was 200 grams of gold worth in 1987? if they use Google, actually many students found this lesson pretty useful. Even they were like computer engineering students, they still didn't know how to search properly. So if they use Google, it's going to take quite a long time to get the results of the first one. So maybe they can use other tools like Wolfram Alpha. So use some keywords on Wolfram Alpha and then they'll get like instant results. The second one is, can you find information about 5 different people called Luke Shaw? This is the issue of using advanced search, okay, like limiting domain names and restricting keywords. The third one is similar to the second one. So you have to know how to restrict domain names to get the right results in no time. And the next one, I think Richard touched upon this a little bit in his presentation. So Google Translate, okay? Actually, this might be a little bit controversial here because in traditional English classrooms, students would be asked not to use Google Translate, but in the hobby course and in the 3 courses in the curriculum, we allow students to use Google Translate. Okay, like in my example, nowadays I usually buy things from China because Chinese products are really good and they are cheap. But everything is written in Chinese, but I need to understand how the products operate. To be able to use the products. So I use Google Translate. I think it has like a function called scan camera or something. So you just scan the instructions, which is written in English, then you know how to operate. And what I found is that, yes, the translation is strange to me. Even I don't speak Chinese, but I know it's when it gets translated into Thai or English, I think it's somehow confusing, but on the whole, I understand. At least I know how to use the product, so it works for me. So to do this, to teach students to be critical about the use of automated translation tool like Google Translate, we show them some examples like this one. Okay, so if you speak Thai, if you know Thai, you probably see that the Thai translation is a bit confusing and strange. So we conclude that Google Translate can be useful as an aid, but it can be problematic if you search for some technical terms. Okay, but you are allowed to use it, but you have to be aware of this limitation. And the third one is the aim of this lesson is to help them understand the importance of English, to realize that English is important. So to do this, we ask them to compare the information on about origami at English Wikipedia page and Thai Wikipedia page. Okay, so if you happen to do this, you probably see that in English Wikipedia page, the information is pretty comprehensive and it's useful, insightful, and informative. Unlike Thai Wikipedia page, even the content is the same, the issue is the same, the topic is the same. Thai Wikipedia page is not so useful if you want to gain knowledge about origami. So what we didn't tell them straight away that which one is good, which one is bad. We don't have judgment on that. So we let them compare the information. And what they found is that what students found was English Wikipedia page was really good. They would turn to English one if they want to gain knowledge. But if they didn't, this is what they mentioned in the reflections. If they didn't have time to read, maybe they would turn to Thai Wikipedia page, which is okay for me as well. And we also let them compare. Letting them decide which one to read and which one to watch videos, which situations you should read and which situations you should watch videos. So this is our guidelines. Okay, origami was used as an example. So if you want to gain knowledge, like materials to do origami, or things that you should be aware of, like ethics or copyright or types of origami, this sort of knowledge, maybe it's better to read. But if you want to gain ability to gain skills like ability to make folds or how to fold the objects, maybe it's worth watching videos because it's easier. Okay, And the third one is interacting about the hobby. This one concerns with using Reddit. Okay. So the aim of this, I mean, we successfully do things in English, right? That's one of the key goals of the languaging curriculum. But to us, to be successful at communication on Reddit, we believe that if students' posts can elicit comments, it is successful. So it's intelligible. So people can interact with you. That should be considered successful communication. But we need to help them. So we started from looking through the origami discussion group and then try to categorize questions or posts on the subreddit, on the subgroup. So what we found was that questions or posts that are related to advice questions, like what is a good large size paper to practice with, you got few replies. But if you wrote a motivation post like how did you start practicing origami or what's so great about origami, you probably get many replies. So the key takeaway from this is that you need to be aware of what sort of posts you should post on your own group. But yeah, I caution or I warn the students that this may be different from your own group, so you have to do it on your own as well. And then we let students do on their own, and then we shared. Okay, we also use wordandphrase.info as well. So for those of you who are not familiar with Word and Phrase is a website where you can where it can analyze text in different ways. But to this one, for this course, we ask students we want students to analyze how people interact with other hobby enthusiasts. Okay, so we ask students to take comments, maybe 10, 15 comments, and then copy and paste them onto the box. If you can see the box here, and then click this button. This website will generate a list of the most frequently used words in the text. Okay, like in origami subreddits, there are the words awesome, cool, great were used quite a lot of time. So we conclude that so in this group, people were really nice. So when you want to interact with other people on Reddit or on the origami discussion group, you have to be nice. Okay, and then we let students analyze on their own as well. And since this website is really useful, so we have to make use of it. In addition to seeing the word list, we ask them to see the concordant lines to know the pattern of words, to understand how each word is used in the real world context. The example that we showed students was awesome. Okay, so awesome. If you can, this screenshot is pretty small, but awesome is usually used. It's usually followed by full stop. So awesome, full stop, and awesome, full stop. So we conclude that awesome is usually used at the last of the sentence. Okay, so students do this, and they found this website pretty useful. Okay. If you have a chance, maybe you can play around with wordandphrase.info and you can make use of this in your classroom. It's pretty fun. And stage 4 is creating video on the hobby. Okay, throughout the weeks, throughout the stage, we use origami again as an example. So the first one, we show students that there are many ways. There are a number of ways to give instructions. Okay, it could be no spoken or written language. Instructions written onto video. We didn't just come up with styles of giving instructions. We actually brought through teaching videos to see how instruction can be given, how people did in their videos. Okay, so it's their choice. So they go and they analyze on their own. Another thing to facilitate the audience to understand your video, to follow your video, maybe to use some additional help like schematics. Okay, so if you get to see origami videos, quite a lot of videos use schematics to help the audience understand and follow the speaker. And the content, you can give instruction only. You can give instructions and warning about misfolds. You can give finished product at first, and then you can, there are many ways to present your content, to structure your tutorial video. So this is what we show to students, and students did on their own, okay? And here is an example. The students did cardistry. And a summary. Reflecting on, so this week, week 15, we let students reflect on their learning because it is part of the experiential learning. So we let them give comments or express things, concerns that they want to say in the classroom. And we allow them to share what they have learned in the course or what they have learned from doing their own hobby. It doesn't have to be only about English learning. It can be anything that they want to tell the teacher, okay? And what was their expectation, their initial expectation of the course, and has it changed? When I read their reflections, I've taught the hobby course for 3 years now. I have found that students usually surprised the way the English was taught in the hobby course. Some students said that, yeah, there is no explicit teach of English, but they feel that they learned something. Yeah, they learned something from using the language, from making mistakes, okay? And these are some assessments. If you go to the website, you can see the sample works of the students, okay? The first one is communication on Reddit. So students have to make at least one contributions on Reddit about their hobby. So for like this one, this is like 2 years ago. What moves in yo-yo that are easy to start practicing with, and what kind of yo-yo are good for beginners? The students got 50% upvoted and 5 comments. I think it's pretty successful. Okay, so we can assume that the students succeed in communicating with others. Okay, so successful communication. Learning reflections. In the course, we let students write to learning reflections. The first one is for the first half of the course. So since the beginning until the middle of the course, and reflection 2 is for the second half of the course, okay? Most of the students mentioned that they feel no pressure about learning the course because there's no focus on grammar, and they really like the way the English was taught in the course, okay? And to be critical on, choosing things to read, choosing things to watch, we let them evaluate resources as well, both reading sources and video sources. Okay, so in evaluating the sources, they have to mention why, the reasons why they choose to watch or to read the particular sources, and what they learned from the sources, and maybe other comments if they want to make, if they want to mention. And the last one is a tutorial video. Again, this one is available on our website. I think they are pretty amazing. Okay. So students did quite a lot of things in the course. There are some students like coin magic, so playing magic with coins, playing guitar, solving Rubik's cubes, cardistry, digital drawing, digital art, and knitting. Okay, before I give the stage to Steve to talk about the review course, I want to finish off with how the hobby course achieves the goals of the languaging curriculum. Okay, how it responds, how it meets the goals of the languaging curriculum. Okay, so learning to strategically make use. So the word here is strategy. So we teach them to analyze successful Reddit posts, to imitate. Like we teach them to analyze successful tutorial videos. Oh, actually, I forgot to mention that. And if we go back to stage 4 about videos, another thing that we did was asking students to analyze successful tutorial videos. And to do this, we advise them to look at the number of views. If the videos got pretty high number of views, maybe with a lot of comments, a lot of likes, that video it's pretty successful. So take some successful videos and analyze the shared or mutual or common characteristics with of the successful tutorial videos, then try to list some criteria or some features, some natures of the successful videos and try to imitate, like not like copying, but just to imitate. Okay, and we emphasize language use strategies through a lot of tools like to facilitate a comprehension of available tools. Okay, so we introduce wordandphrase.info. This one is not just for language learning. Yes, they can make use to learn language, but it can be used for language use strategy as well, like to see how the word is used in the real world context. We introduce them Google Translate, not really introduce them, but we teach them to be critical about the use of Google Translate, okay, to use them critically. And resources, so we got them understand when to read and when to watch. We help them evaluate resources. We help them, we show them how to search effectively. Okay, so it's part of strategy as well. And to successfully do things in English for real world purposes, so we ask students to do their own video to show their hobby to the world. So in this one, they have to create a tutorial video and then post it on YouTube. So they can show their hobby to the real world audience and do things in real world for real world purposes. The other example is to communicate, to interact about the hobby on Reddit. So that means using English for real world purposes and in the real world context. Okay, I'm going to finish my presentation here and thank you for listening. So we are going to take 2 minutes break, right? Before listening to the review course. Okay, and thank you for listening.